Okay, so I had a question from someone who kind of wrote me an email from one of my other videos, and they're asking for suggestions on how to combine triads, pentatonic scales, and modes. And this was particularly on the bottom three strings, the G, B, E strings. I thought this was a cool idea to talk about, as if you're someone who's kind of like, jamming in one key, like over one chord in solo sections, rock bands, blue bands, whatever. And I have found when people are doing that, they are usually exclusively playing one. So, you could be playing over an A vamp. And your go-to is just A pentatonic the whole solo, possibly even just one position the whole time. So I thought it's cool to have to start to build a bigger bag of little things you can draw from. And this could, modes and triads are good ones to start to implement into your playing. So what we'll do is we'll have a look at a couple of triads that we can play, and we're going to keep it in a dominant 7 world. So we'll pick a couple of triads that work over that chord, and then we'll pick maybe we'll do a couple of positions for a Mixolydian, the mode that goes along with that, then also a minor pentatonic. So we'll keep it pretty short, just so you can get it going. And then we can kind of expand on it maybe later. But we're going to keep it on just the bottom three strings. So kind of, makes it sound like we're playing kind of lead guitar, so we're not down in the kind of riff area. Okay, so let's look at the triads. Okay, so the triads we're going to use, we're going to pick 2, and we're going to do it in a few different positions. We're going to do A and G. So A over the root gives us the 3rd, the 5th, and the root, and G over A gives us the flat 7, the 11, and the 9th. So this kind of sound. Now, in the little solo beginning, I try to really, bring that color out with all the, like the Mixolydian, the mode, and the pentatonic, and these triads. But particularly these triads. So let's learn them in 3 different positions, and we'll keep the triads in a few positions. Maybe we can do this, the mode and the scale, maybe in 1 position, so it's not too overwhelming. So we're going to learn A at the 12th fret, and it's going to go 12th fret on the E, 14th fret on the B, and 14th fret on the G. So it's going to sound like this. Okay, now the cool thing about this, once you get the first shape, you just move it back 2 frets. So if the first one's 12th, up to 14, up to 14, you just make it go back 2 frets, and you get the 10th fret, 12th fret, 12th fret. And it's also good to know the intervals that we're playing as well. So we've got the 5th, the 3rd, and the root, A. Then we've got D, which is the 11th, B, which is the 9th, and then you've got the flat 7 on the G string. So play those together. Kind of sound? Okay, so that's the first 2. Now the next 2 are our normal D major chord shape, like shape-wise on the guitar. So we're going to do 9th fret on the E string, up to 10th fret, up to 9th fret. Then we're going to move that back to 7th fret, up to 8th fret, up to 7th fret. So the first one's A, then G. Also play these as chords, so they're all kind of really important, very guitar-y kind of thing, really important to know as well. Okay, and then we're gonna, let's try putting those 2 together. That kind of sound? Okay, let's do it in 1 more position. Again, see these as pairs, so 3 places, and each one's got a pair. The next one is A again, 5th fret on the bottom string, up to 5th, up to 6th, and then now move that back 2 frets, and you get 3rd fret, 3rd fret, up to 4th fret. So that's A to G. And this is also just the bottom part of your normal bar chord. Like that. So, and there you're getting the root, the 5th, the 3rd, flat 7, 11th, and the 9th. again, really learning these intervals helps train our ears so we know what we're playing a little bit more. Yeah, really important. Okay, so like I said, fairly flying through this, but if you need to kind of look at those shapes, kind of go back and pause the video and have a look at them. Next, we're going to do maybe a couple of positions for the Mixolydian mode. Let's do that. Okay, so now we're going to do a Mixolydian. Let's do it from the root down low at the 2nd fret. Then we can maybe do it from maybe even the flat 7 and from the 12th fret as well. Let's start with the 2nd fret. So it's going to go. So that's A to A. So A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G, A. Now A Mixolydian is a major scale with a flat 7. Very kind of bluesy. Yeah, so that one I feel like is pretty easy to remember. Not too bad. Now if I do it up higher, I get now that's from the flat 7 up to the flat 7. So that's going 12th fret, 14th fret, then down to 12th fret, 13th fret, 15th fret, 12th fret, 14th fret, 15th fret. Sorry, those last two strings are the same. I meant 14th fret, yeah. So. Okay, so let's use like the outer two as Mixolydian. I don't want to go any higher than the octave, so let's just keep those there. So it's a cool little starter for just knowing a bit of Mixolydian. There are ones in the middle, but we're going to replace our pentatonics in there. So let's start with that. Get those under your fingers. Okay, and now we're going to do a couple of positions for the pentatonic. Okay, so we're going to do minor pentatonic. You can also do major pentatonic, but I think it's cool to have a lot of like minor pentatonic sound and then shift into Mixolydian mode, because you're kind of pushing like a minor third sound, bluesiness, and then shifting to a major third, which the Mixolydian mode has, and it sounds really cool. It's almost like you're changing chords like a little bit, like a key, changing the tonal center in some ways. If I do major pentatonic, which would be F sharp minor pentatonic, it sounds fairly similar to the Mixolydian mode. So let's do minor pentatonic at the 5th fret, so on the bottom 3 strings. You also land the root on the D. We try to keep it on the bottom 3, but just so you can hear a bit of a root note as well. Okay, and then the next position would be and the reason I'm doing this, not doing all pentatonic, just because I don't want to be too overwhelming. This is very much like the place where everybody knows already, and it's where a lot of licks come from as well. So your main position. I feel like they're pretty easy to remember as well. So, which is 5th fret to 7th fret on the G, 5th fret to 8th fret on the bottom 2 strings. That's A minor pentatonic, and then the next one is going 7th fret to 9th fret on the G, then it's 8th fret to 10th fret on the bottom 2. Okay, so you got a little area where you're only going to play pentatonic there. The outer ones are going to be A Mixolydian, and then you're going to play the triads up and down. To know that pentatonic and the Mixolydian all throughout the other positions, it takes a bit of work, but I'm trying to give you the kind of maybe the easiest ones to remember straight away. And you know, if you're wanting to know the others and, you know, where are they and stuff, I can do maybe a longer video on that. But for now, this is just someone like who just want to start to break out of either one of these. I don't think anybody's just exclusively playing triads, but they could be very a modal player and not aware of pentatonic scales. And I reckon the number one is probably somebody playing just pentatonic, you know, maybe getting bored of their own playing and wishing they had another kind of sound to draw upon, which can be really fun. You can put in a loop pedal and just start to jam with yourself and go, wow, I've got some new, fresh stuff to play. Okay, so we've covered those. Let's, you know, I'll do a little bit. Well, the next one, we'll talk about how we can kind of glue it all together. So let's do that now. Okay, so now, hopefully if you've gone through each part, you can get a few of them in your fingers. So you get the triads. You got the modal ones. I put one low and put one high. And then you got the pentatonics kind of in the middle. So you got a cool little area for pentatonics, modal, and the triads can cross down. So if I was practicing this, and it's also, this is almost like a limitation practice, like exercise. You're limiting yourself whenever you're down this area, it's just Mixolydian. When you're in this area, it's pentatonic. Up here, it's Mixolydian. And you've got the triad shapes to stick to as well. So I'd just start trying to freely, like, just play around with those and just get used to where they are. So I'd start going, maybe play a bit of an A chord. If you know the other positions, like going down the lower notes, you can kind of add that in as well. But if you're kind of new to this, I reckon it is good just sticking to these kind of three little ideas. Again, so I can maybe, you know, do triads. Cool. And then, you know, you think of what are the Mixolydian modal sounds. So hopefully that kind of makes sense. You know, if this is a bit, you know, it's a lot to take on, just do one at a time. Just think, okay, I like the sound of triads. I'm not even too sure what the triads are, so I'm just going to start with the triads. So you don't even have to do the modal and the pentatonic part. And at the moment I'm just kind of doing them descending, I guess, but you can jumble them around. You can also join them together and play them more like a scale, like this. You know, if you can just visualize them as two shapes, and then think of them as little 6-note scale. And try to go into maybe a Mixolydian position, you know. And luckily, around each of these, you've kind of got one of those there. So if you're in the middle, the pentatonics are really close. So I could do the A major, the G major triad here. Now, if you're wondering, but there's an A major against an A minor sound. This is just the kind of bluesy rock sound, this kind of thing. That's bending a minor third into a major third. Just a part of the sound we're going for, I think. Anyway, so I think give this a go, and if you're kind of wondering, well, how do we go lower? How do we cover it all? We could talk about that as well, but it's a good starting point for someone who's just wanting to start to build a bigger bag of tricks for their modal or one chord vamp jamming. This is over only a dominant. We could maybe do it over a minor chord eventually, but start with this, give it a go, and let me know how you find it useful. And I can always do something that explains it a bit further as well. So thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time. Okay, thank you.